there's a massive development in the Air India flights case. One after other, the Air India flights are getting security threats. The MHA complaint has been accessed by Republic TV, in which a serious allegation has been leveled against Air India. The complaints now that the Air India COO does not have security clearance that are necessary for key managerial position inside an airline has now been raised. The Air India CEO, who's a foreign national, as per the rules, and the MHA complaint requires a security clearance. However, Republic accesses exclusive information that Callous does not possess the security clearance. The defiance is that Callous is the chief operating officer. Air India says not the chief operating officer, he's the chief operations officer. A criticality there. I want to go across for this massive exclusive breaking to Harsha, who's joining us live, Krutharth, who's joining us live, and my colleague Shavan, who's also joining us live. Harsha, I want to first come across to you. What are the kind of correspondences, what is the communication you've had with Air India, and how have they reacted through these days?
So, Rhythm, right now we know that how important is for the expats and the foreign individuals, foreign national, who are at the senior most position of CEO, CFO, CEO and Chief Security Officer position in any airline company, and they have to go with particular set of clearance. Now, the DGCA rules in fact says anyone who is in the management role and is a foreign national, he or she has to go with the security clearance. Now, in this matter, COO Callous took over the position on October 2023. It's been almost 1 year. It's October 2024. And till now, he has done no security clearance. In fact, there's a letter also, there's a file also, which has been sent out to MHA regarding his security clearance, which is a complaint. And there's a petition has also been filed regarding it, that the person who is at such a senior position, why his security clearance has not been done. It's a matter of grave concern with them, because he is the same person who is saying ignore it, who is saying ignore the bomb hoax calls.
Absolutely.
That means he is not serious about what threat is being posed to the airline of our country. There are several individuals, lakhs and crore of individuals.
Yes, and Harsha, I also want to, as you've been giving us breaking after breaking since morning, also want to get in Shavan. Shavan, you've also tried to get in touch with the necessary authorities, write to them, email, communicate. What is the sense you are getting from them?
Well, in fact, Rhythm, I'll just take our viewers through the sequence of events. This afternoon, Republic TV sent out a questionnaire to the CEO of Air India, Mr. Campbell Wilson, and the questions that we have essentially asked was about his subordinate, Mr. Callous, who also happens to be an expat. Now, as far as certain rules and regulations are concerned, the DGCA rules, which basically stipulates that a foreign national has to undergo a security clearance, and that security clearance comes in from the Ministry of Home Affairs. Key managerial positions that are held, they are the ones who basically undergo this kind of security clearance. What is it that Air India maintains? Remember, so far we haven't received any official reply from Air India, but having said that, Air India has essentially responded by simply stating that Mr. Callous does not hold a key managerial position. Once again, behind in the garb of this entire nomenclature, Air India is essentially stating that Callous does not require any security clearance. But remember, the very designation that Mr. Callous has put out in his LinkedIn indicates that he holds a position which is a decision-making position, first of all. And secondly, his predecessor, with whom we've spoken a short while back, has also indicated the same, that this is a managerial position to begin with, and the fact that this requires, especially if there is an expat, this requires a security clearance. This morning, remember, there were allegations that were also leveled that a top boss within Air India, who we are given to understand perhaps played an important role in ensuring that the stakeholders are not informed about the threats that were essentially received. Now, our reporters are also telling us that Air India is diverting this entire issue by simply saying that SOPs were followed. If that's the case, why is it that there is no official statement that has come in from Air India as yet?
All right, I also, Shravan, want to get in Krutarth here. Krutarth, this is a shocking news that's coming in. Like Shravan just told us, communications have been made. It's very clear that the CEO does not have the necessary security clearance. However, he continued to disregard in criminal neglect, wasting and trying to not look at lives of passengers on all these flights. He actually just disregarded in a very blasé manner, said, no, go right ahead and ignore this.
Indeed, Rhythm, and this is a very severe allegation that is now coming against the top management of Air India. Essentially, Air India has now gone into a game of nomenclature. As you rightly pointed out earlier, that Air India's defense for not having security clearance for Callous, which again, they have not contested. They have admitted to the fact that Klaus Gorsch does not have security clearance, their COO. But their defense is that he is the chief operations officer and not the chief operating officer. Perhaps a very clever way to circumnavigate Section 3 of the Civil Aviation Act. However, it is very interesting if you look at the profile of Mr. Gorsch and the position that he holds. He is the Executive Vice President of Air India and is also the COO. In this case, the Chief Operations Officer, as Air India would like to put it. But under his profile, Mr. Gorsch is directly responsible for overseeing flight operations, engineering, ground operations, integrated operational control and cabin crew functions, all of them which are directly related to flight safety and flight operations. So it is very interesting how Air India is trying to dodge the entire situation by claiming that Mr. Gorsch is not a key managerial position holding person, and hence even though he is a foreigner, he may or may not require DGCA clearance, the security necessary clearance, which is clearly mentioned in the Section 3 of the CAS rules that Air India themselves are quoting.
Shravan and Krutarth and Harsha, I want you to stay with us. We're going to go across to another breaking, which actually reveals what the COO of Air India did and why there needs to be a proper survey, a proper inquiry into the behavior of not only the CEO but Air India. In a shocking revelation after Republic accessed a trail of messages, these messages, viewers, exchanged among Air India's top officials regarding the bomb threats that were received today. And I tell you, viewers, this is shocking. Republic finds out the Air India top boss, the COO, the person we've been speaking about, asked his team to ignore the bomb threats. We have the graphics, we have those messages in an exclusive. The Air India has claimed that the security of their passengers matters the most. Then why would they ignore these bomb threat messages? The pictures on the screen, Shravan, and I could appreciate if you could speak over them, clearly show ignore them is the message that this man, the airline CEO, a foreign national, gave. Klaus Gorsch.
Well, in fact, we're talking about 12 alleged bomb threats that were received by Air India. In fact, we've also accessed the images of the threat mails that were allegedly received by Air India. We'll put that out in a short while from now. But what is even more shocking is this, Rhythm, is the fact that there was an internal communication that took place within Air India. And it turns out that their top boss, within certain conversations that may have taken place, even if it is informal in nature, it turns out that he was apprised about the fact that certain bomb threats actually came in. And it turns out that he's responded by saying, ignore it. Now, what are the repercussions of it? Let me just quickly try and explain this to our viewers, Rhythm. The moment you ignore the bomb threats, which essentially means that they do not need to carry on with the emergency landing. Because remember, at least few of the threats were at a time when the flight was mid-air, which would essentially mean, as per protocol, they go ahead with an emergency landing. The emergency landing would also incur a certain amount of cost. We are not alluding to the fact that whether at all such a decision was taken because of certain commercial interests. But having said that, Air India still maintains that the standard operating procedures were followed. If that's the case, why is it that they are not putting this out on paper? Because as we understand, even the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security has actually pulled up the Chief Security Officer of Air India, asking them about these very threats that were allegedly received by them.
All right, I also want to, like you've said, Shravan, go across to Harsha on this as well. Harsha, if we actually try and understand what Shravan has told us and Krutarth has told us, it means the Air India, and you've spoken to several people there and you've had communications with the MHA. How are they going to deal with this?
Rhythm, I can't hear you. If you can repeat your question.
You've spoken to your sources within the MHA. How do you think the regulatory bodies in the civil aviation department, the security, as well as the MHA going to handle this?
So, Rhythm, today I came across a most shocking update, which I got to know that the foreign national who is at the position of COO, the airline Air India, only the time he takes over the charge of his position, in the span of 3 to 4 months, he has to send a letter to the MHA regarding his security clearance, and the security clearance happens from the IB, Narco, DRI, and the other law enforcement agencies. But in this case, this man Callous took over the charge in October 2023, and MHA was unaware because the Air India and the CFO, Chief Security Officer of Air India, none of them sent out a letter to MHA or the law enforcement agency for his security clearance. He is in his position, he has taken over the charge, it's been 1 year, and he don't think it's important to have a security clearance.
Yes.
Before Callous, this position was held by Indian national. Mr. R.S. Sandhu was holding this position, and clearly he says that how much grave concern he is that he's ignoring, neglecting the bomb scare messages, and in fact sitting on them, not informing the regulators, and informing the regulators much late after Republic exposes them, after Republic scoops, shares to our viewers that how they have not done any emergency landing. Now they are calling us, they are asking us, they are telling us that SOPs have been followed.
Absolutely,
and we have taken
Harsha.
the measures. We have followed the measures. Now they ask.
Harsha, I tell you this, and I tell all of our viewers as well, Krutharth, Shavan, Harsha, all of them investigating the story. We're going to get to the bottom of this because, like it or not, it's our passengers, our Indian citizens whose lives are at stake here, also foreign nationals who've been flying Air India, and this kind of callous, massively negligent, criminally negligent behavior by Air India cannot be left out. Thank you all for being with us as we continue to track these hoax or threat security calls. Now, the other breaking news that's coming in, viewers, and we're going to go across to this in a massive way. We're also going to be joined by our colleagues from Israel right now. What we've been telling you is the IDF may have eliminated the head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, in an operation in Gaza on Thursday. This is the big breaking news coming in. The IDF neutralizes 3 top terrorists in Gaza operations. They've also said in a post on Twitter that on X, it's checking the possibility that one of the 3 terrorists eliminated during the military operations was Sinwar. During IDF operations in Gaza, it says 3 terrorists were eliminated. The IDF and the ISA are checking the possibility one of the terrorists was Yahya Sinwar. At this stage, the identity of the terrorists can't be confirmed. However, the IDF is also saying that Israel is also saying in the building where the terrorists were eliminated, there were no signs of the presence of hostages in the area. The forces that are operating in the area continue to operate with the required caution. Is the breaking news, this is the October 7 mastermind. Has he been killed in Gaza? It's the top breaking story that Yahya Sinwar in an operation in Gaza, the IDF says may have been eliminated. The Israeli forces are checking the possibility. Let me go across to my colleague Nick, who's joining us from Israel. Nick, give us more details.
Yes, so as we understand right now, the Israeli army, the IDF, and also Shabak, the security organ of Israel, they are checking the possibility, and it is highly likely that Israel actually eliminated the head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, and this was the top priority for the Israeli army in the past year to do that. Right now, there is a DNA test that has been taken from the body of the terrorists, and it will be checked, and soon, very soon, Israel will be able to confirm that actually it was Yahya Sinwar that was killed. Israel seized an opportunity, and not just Sinwar, another 2 terrorists that was with him were with him also eliminated. And it will be a big achievement for the Israeli army because for 1 year, Israeli army was under a heavy criticism after it didn't do enough to defend the Israeli people on the first day of the 7th of October, and about 1,200 people were killed and another 250 were kidnapped. And this master plan was by Sinwar, the head of Hamas, that the leader of Hamas since 2017, after he was released from the Israeli army in 2011, and it was in exchange for one Israeli soldier that Hamas kidnapped. And in exchange, Sinwar and many more other Hamas members were released, and now probably he is dead.
In fact, Nick, photos out of Gaza purport to the document that they have the corpse allegedly of the Hamas leader. But remember, who is Yahya Sinwar? He is the mastermind of October 7th. And I think not only is Israel showing its might, but with this killing and also the killing earlier, they have clearly shown the initial DNA testing also, Nick, I'm being told, shows that it could be possible that he's been eliminated in an Israeli strike. And we're also being told that not only this could be a huge development, Nick. I also want you to give us more details, because it seems in less than a month, both Hassan Nasrallah and Yahya Sinwar could possibly now have been eliminated by the Israeli Defense Forces.
Yeah, that's right. It's a huge development, and because those both organizations are basically a terror organization, and they are based on their leadership and especially on their leaders, and in this case Hamas, it is the Yahya Sinwar, it will be a big blow for the other terrorists because they will see they have no more leadership, and almost all the top commanders now are dead. And the symbol of all of this movement, jihadi movement of the Hamas, now is vanished. He is dead probably, and they will need to find a new leader to look up for him, because most of the people in Gaza, they understand that Hamas made their life miserable. And now when they see that even the leader of Hamas is dead, maybe it will be a time for them to try to revolt against this dictatorship, I can say, of Hamas, that no leader or there were no elections at all since 2006 for almost in Gaza, and just by power, Yahya Sinwar and before him other heads of Hamas, they just rule Gaza by the force, and now it will be maybe the breaking point for this movement.
I think in central Gaza now, Nick, as you're telling us, initial reports show that the head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, was eliminated an hour ago, possibly 2 hours ago in central Gaza. And as we await for those reports, what will the significance be now for this West Asian crisis, this elevation, the escalation of the war that had begun and had continued?
So now probably Hamas will not be able really to respond to the elimination of their leader, because Israel in the past year almost completely destroyed their military capabilities, and most of their weapons and members of Hamas are eliminated. So now the response could come even not from Hezbollah, which is also is not with their leader Nasrallah anymore and without their commanders. So the only force that now can really retaliate against Israel is Iran, and they are now waiting for the Israeli response to the second ballistic attack that they did against Israel just days before. So I believe the response will come from Iran, and they will try to do something to bring back the morale to all the axis of evil of Iran, that includes Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and also militias in Iran, in Iraq, and also in Syria. So all of those proxies now will wait and see what the head of the octopus of this terror, of this evil, Iran, will do. And this probably will be the next level of escalation, because Israel really determined now to try and destroy all the axis that Iran built for so many years with all of the proxies that are surrounding
That's
Israel
right.
from all over the place. Yes.
All right, this is a massive development. Like Nick, you said, thank you for being with us. This is something we'll continue tracking because more and more reports show that the pictures, the fingerprints are the same of the people who've been eliminated in Gaza and this man, this terrorist who eliminated, who killed, who was behind the mastermind of the October 7 massacre. Thank you for being with us, viewers, on This Is Exclusive. It's an investigation. It's a story we'll continue tracking.